Approximately 30 seconds of silence is sometimes a little bit too much for us in the world out there. When you take a look at your whole day, you see that there are so many inputs from outside. Emails, SMS, social media. And when you talk to people what they really want from life, everyone tells you, I want to have some time for myself to find some intimacy in life. And intimacy in today's world means that we are able to create connections with each other. And I truly believe that success of life always starts at home. In my case, I'm married since 4 years. Approximately 8 years ago, I met my wife, okay? It's Anna, okay? She's my dream wife. I was in the fourth district at the Favoritenstraße. I was in a little espresso store. I saw her and I said to my best friend at that time, one day I'm going to marry her, okay? So she also did it voluntarily, yeah? We have a little daughter. She's nearly 4 years old, and I gave a promise to my wife that if I'm going to talk about my little daughter today, I'm not allowed showing you a picture of my daughter with her eyes wide open. Therefore, you have to see this picture, okay? And and the second one is coming in June. Yeah, this is great. Also a girl. And the thing is, when you take a look at the world these days, we have the best technologies out there, but there is a lack of connection, of relationships. We're not able to build trust with each other, and we want to have this in all areas of life. It can be with colleagues, in our family, with friends, and so between the generations we have to deal with these days. So when I got asked, so coming here, I was like, what should I talk about? And they said about touch. I was like, okay, sometimes I do touch my wife or other people, but what is the whole thing all about? And the thing was how to get in touch with each other again. And I also believe that this topic is very important these days, because when you take a look at the world these days, how we do talk to each other, especially on social media, there is a pattern we can see. Welcome to the brave new world of social media and technology. This is one way dealing with the world and with others, and I truly believe we have to go back to how we were created as human beings, being part of nature, being part of Mother Planet, Earth. Maybe you're in the field of music. If you're in the field of music, you know this stuff, okay? It's a metronome, okay? A metronome is a beat generator. And when you put some of these metronomes so next to each other, it's like putting people into a place. Each one of us, we all have our own beat, our own culture, our own style. And sometimes when we come together, it seems like it's totally so chaotic. In this case, when you take a look at the ground floor, it's moving a little bit, because on the sides there are a few strings, and therefore the floor can shake a little bit and it can move. And what happens is, if you have a surrounding where people can find a common language with each other, after some time you take a look at the people and you have this feeling that there is a bigger belief system behind it and everyone works on the same stuff. In today's world, when we talk about climate change, when we talk about there's a problem with the refugees, we have so many separation in the world out there, we see that we can't solve the problems alone. We need other people where we have the feeling we're walking the same way. This is how nature works. When you have friends for more than 10 years or 15 years, you know sometimes when you talk to each other or you're talking to other people, they will tell you that you and your friends, you're talking the same. You're using the same words, the same style, you're listening to the same music. This is what makes us human. And my whole life I was curious about why people do what they do. As you told it before, I'm from Iran. I came to Austria, I was approximately 3 years old or 4 years old. I grew up in a camp outside of Vienna. It was a refugee camp. Then Austria became my hometown, and when I was 13 years old, I started to stutter because my parents broke up. It was a shock for me. I was not able to talk, and therefore I was a school dropout. I had more than 40 jobs, and so So he told everything about my CV. And it's true. Among these 40 jobs, I was working as a DJ on a construction site. I had so many different jobs. I was working in Subway, McDonald's, and all of this stuff. But the most important job I had in my life was as a construction site. It was at a construction site. I will tell you why. When I was working there, it was my first job. When you go to a construction site, everyone wants to build a house, okay? It's very simple. We want to build a house. Okay. But you have different people there, and I was working for the painter there. And the guy there, he was an older man, and he said to me, Ali, you know, you have to understand one simple thing about a construction site. If you are able to understand the construction site from the point of view of each of the persons there, then you will have a good life. He told me, we're talking about creating a house, but for me as a painter, the only important thing is the color. For the bricklayer, it's the walls. For the plumber, it's the tubes. For the architect, it's the plan. When you do not understand that everyone is seeing the world with their own eyes, you will fail. Not only on a construction site, also in life. And I still remember that I had this dream. I said to myself, I want to be the person who is able to talk eye to eye with the president and also with a bricklayer and to kids. This was the dream I had in my life. Maybe I have to put this a little bit here. Okay, it works. Many years later, I finished school again, I finished university, I started working at Siemens as a business consultant. After that I started to work at Sun Microsystems, a large US company. I was one of the youngest managers in Austria. Then I had a burnout syndrome. After the burnout I started to work in the creative space for Superfy. My boss at the time was Nico Alm. And I also was working as a teacher, part-time. And while I was working as a teacher, I saw that the kids in school, they had no idea what to do in their life. And for me, when I was a kid, I always had this idea of a handbook of life stories. I always wanted to understand why people do the stuff they do. And then you're a teacher, you're working with kids, you see it's 2010, everyone has a mobile phone in their pocket, they have the connection to the world out there. The internet is there in their pocket, but in 2010 they were only using their mobile phones for selfies and for cat content, so like today. But it was 2010 exactly the same. And I was like, damn it, why is not anyone doing something for these kids with this technology? And so what I did in my spare time as a teacher and working at Superfy was I bought myself a little camera. It was around 400, 500 euros. And I started interviewing people on the streets in Vienna. The first interview I did was in Floridsdorf. I was sitting on a plastic chair in short trousers with a little camera, talking to strangers about I want to save the world for the kids. And they laughed at me. They said to me, what? So with this little camera, do you have a website? No, I have a Facebook page with 90 people. And 70% of these people, they were friends and family. It was how I started, but I wanted to capture the stories from the people, why they do the things they do. I wanted to understand how they got into a job. I wanted to understand the good parts and the hard parts of life. And this little side project I had at the time, I called it Whatchado. I did it in my spare time with a few, it was, I think, 12 volunteers. It turned out that it's also a business behind it. It's called employer branding. And today there are more than 7,500 stories on it, on video from 100 nations from all around the world. And one of the coolest things was that I was able to interview the president at the time. This was really cool. It only took me nearly 200 emails, okay, and waiting 1.5 years, writing an email every Monday, yeah, and every Friday, really. The most important thing in life is not being smart, it's being persistent. Really. In Austria, some people try something 4 or 5 times, and they fail, and they're like, okay, I tried it so many times. I always said to people, no one can outwork me. Really. When you're a school dropout and you want to get into a job, you have to apply sometimes 100 times. When I started working at Siemens in the business field, I applied more than 70 times. No one is doing this. This is the only way how to be successful. Try it one more, so really, you have to try it 1 time more than everyone else around you. Then you're alone at the top. It's not smartness, it's not who you know and stuff like this. It is how bad do you want it. This is the thing I learned from my life. Maybe from your point of view, it's something totally different. After Whatchado, I saw that, okay, so the part of job orientation, done. And then I saw that the society has technology and a lot of knowledge, but there's but there is a lack of wisdom how to deal with the world. And a few years, I think 2 or 3 years ago, I started a new company called Future One. Future One means someone who has the feeling I'm part of the future. I can deal with life on my own. And our big goal is bringing the love and the humanity back into the world of business. So what we do since 2 or 3 years is we're helping companies, NGOs, large companies, small ones, international companies, we're helping them to deal with their employees, to deal with self-leadership, with mindfulness. For example, in the last few years, so we made trainings for more than 2 years for Red Bull, Deutsche Telekom, and stuff like this. And the fun part is when you talk with leaders, you have a leadership day. Of course, they want to have knowledge about leadership. But what they want the most is they want emotion. They want to have the feeling that something is touching them. So this is approximately 50% of my time, working with leaders, companies. The other 50% of my time, I go to schools. I work with kids, especially with the ones where everyone is telling me they don't have a potential. I traveled whole Europe, going to the schools where no one wants to go there. And when you work with kids, people always tell you the same stuff. They will tell you, come on, kids are not listening to you for more than 10 minutes. This is bullshit. When they go to the cinemas, they're sitting there for 90 minutes. You have to understand their world. You have to understand what is triggering them. Of course, when I go there and we say, okay, for the next 90 minutes, we're talking about job orientation. At the beginning, they're like, come on, shoot me. Yeah. But if you act like being on eye level, and when you understand that there was a day when you were a kid, then you talk in a different style to them. Of course, when I go there, it's more like a show. And then 90 minutes of job orientation, okay? In the last few years, I had the chance to work with amazing people. I worked with Jane Goodall in the field of youth. I worked with the European Union. I go to prisons, but not for the kids, also sometimes, but for the adults. When there are fights, they call me sometimes. It's not easy there. It's really not easy, but it's something which I'm really grateful for, that I have the ability to help there. I also work with people who are artists. Maybe you know the guy there. His name is Sourav Kamwara. When he wrote his first book, I helped him in the beginning. And when you work with people like this, you understand a few things about life. I want to share with you in a few minutes. The cool thing about my second job at Future One was also that I also had the chance to talk to the new president again. It was from my podcast, okay? Subscribe, okay? So the thing is, what I do every day is that 50% of everything I do for free. I work with the NGOs, I work with the kids, I work with the businesses. And then we had this call on Monday. And you were like, Ali, talk about touch. And I said, why? And she said, because from outside, there is this feeling that you have the ability to talk to different people. And after the talk, I was like, yeah, now I know my abilities. Because once a week, I say to my wife, I have no idea if I'm good in anything. Okay, this is not a joke, okay? This is not a joke. And then I said to you, hey, I'm not an expert in this. Yeah? And she said, come on, Ali. And I said, no, I'm really not an expert. But there are a few things I have experienced in my life. I'm now 41 years old. And there's a few things I saw during the last 20 years of my life when I started working with people. There are 3 theses I want to share with you. It is how I see the world, okay? Because when you work with people out there, you have an inner operating system. And if you don't understand your inner operating system, maybe you don't understand your own behavior. And since we talked with each other, I was not able to sleep a night without thinking about the presentation today. And I was like, maybe my operating system is a little bit different than other people. And this helps me to deal with everyone out there. No matter if it's someone from the far right, I also talk to them. I talk with kids, I talk with prisoners. Maybe it's the operating system. Maybe it's not an ability, maybe it's how I see the world. And this is something I want to share with you. 3 theses, okay? The first thesis is that I believe that before we played adults, we were all kids. I truly believe that every human wants to have a fulfilled life. And if you have kids, or if you have ever played with kids, you see that they don't think about tomorrow. They're in here and now. They want to stay in touch with you. They want to be seen. And this brings me to thesis number 2. Humans want to be seen. A very strong belief I have is that every human being, regardless who you are, where you're from, what you believe, who you love, how you look like, you should have the opportunities in life to find your own way and walk that way. Because at the end of the day, when you talk to people who are very old, in their last days of life, when they think about their own life, they're only happy if they have the feeling that in my lifetime I had the feeling to be seen and bring in my potential to the world. This is the second thing I believe. Maybe you guys are believing something different. It's okay. I can only talk about my experiences from the last 40 years of my life. I'm just a part of 7 to 8 billion people on this planet. I'm just a little piece out there. The third thesis is we are all capable of transformation. We are meeting someone and he's a Nazi or far right. He was not born that way. And he's also able to transform his life. Maybe something happened to him. And maybe if the same stuff happened to me in my childhood, maybe I'm a Nazi today. This is something we have to understand, that every human being has everything it needs to be capable dealing with the world. We have it inside of us. So now you will tell me, come on, Ali, okay, it's very nice what you're talking about, but why do you think that way? It's very simple. There is one thing for our brain which is the hardest thing to learn. There is one thing, if you can master it once, you know that for the rest of your life there won't be anything more complex to learn. And it's called the language. On the day we were born, we had no ideas if we were born in Austria, in Germany, in the US, in Australia, in Turkey, in Iran. We learned the language out of nothing because our leaders, our parents believed in us. They played with us. No one told us, hey, your baby friends are talking mother language faster than you. What's wrong with you? We were born in a world without knowing we need to talk the language, and we learned it out of nothing. And it's the most complex thing in the world. But while being playful in the moment, dealing with our parents and people around us, we learned it out of nothing. And maybe you guys sometimes believe you're not good in learning some new languages, but it was part of us. The second thing is when you take a look at most of the people, we were running around. But on the day we were born, we had no idea that there's something called walking around. We saw our parents, our leaders, our role models. We wanted to be like them. It was cool walking around. We tried it and we hit the floor. We made a mistake. But the thing is, no one told us that this is a mistake, because this is called learning. We see something, we want to be part of something, we crash the floor, we make an experience, we adapt immediately, we try it again, and the people around us are not saying, ah, come on, you made a mistake again. It's not going to work. No, they're like, come on, we believe in you. People believed in us. And so we also learned walking. And walking is the second hardest thing for the brain to learn. And I have friends who are sitting in a wheelchair. When you talk to their parents about their childhood, they will tell you, yeah, he had no idea that he is going to sit in a wheelchair. He found his own way how to move in the flat. So when you see this, how we learned walking, it was playfulness. It was being in the moment, and we were surrounded by people who believed in us. And sometimes we think that we're people we don't want to be part of a new world. But again, if you have kids, you know this. When they're 1.5 years old, something around this, the most disturbing question in the world starts. Why? They want to know everything. Everything. And sometimes for parents it's very hard finding answers to everything. But globally, every kid wants to understand the world. They want to understand their part in the world. You have to explain it to them. And the fourth thing is, and everything I'm now showing you is based on research and science, okay? The fourth thing is it's something very beautiful. When I grew up and I was in the business world, people told me you need your elbows. We're not human beings. We are not helping each other. It's everyone against each other. But I'm a friend of science and of research. And research had this question, we as human beings, in our original form, how do we interact with each other? And what they did was, in this research, they showed kids that someone was in need. The person in need was an actor. And the kids, they were not in kindergarten. It means they were not affected by society in a big way. They were kids who were mostly at home. And they showed the kids that someone was in need. Someone had a problem. Someone was not able to solve something. Someone was maybe made a mistake. And what they found out was that more than 90% of the kids worldwide in this research, they helped immediately. Not only once, not only twice, as often as it was needed. And the fun part was that the parents, they were in the room, but they had one order. They were not allowed to say a word. The only reason they were in the room was for the safety of the kid, because otherwise the little kid, maybe it would be afraid of the actor. And it turned out that more than 90% of the kids are helping unconditionally, because the parents were not allowed to say, come on, go there, help the person, be a good kid. No one was allowed to say a word. It turned out that 90% of the kids helped unconditionally. This is the best thing. Also when it comes to complex stuff. So when you understand who we are as human beings, and then life happened to us, and we learned from other people, there are strangers, there are bad people, don't do this, you're a girl, you want to work in the field of tech, it's only something for the boys. When you grow up like this as a girl, you believe you're not good enough in the field of tech. The truth is, the first software engineers in the world, they were women, because it was too complex for the man. When you Google the word informatics, you will see that the inventor of informatics, it was a woman, Ada Lovelace. Therefore, we have one of the first languages in the field of software engineering called Ada. But when you grow up after this time with belief system from others, and no one ever taught you how to reflect and how to learn from others, you will believe that the world is how you see the world. And it's never how you see the world. Because you are always surrounded by people who know at least one thing you have no idea of. And you can decide if you want to learn from others or if you want to stay in your own bubble, with your own friends, with the people you know, where there are people who are never challenging you. When I talk to people who are from the far right, people are like, are you crazy? And I say, no, I want to learn about the world. The world is, we talk about diversity, but no one wants to live diverse. Everyone talks about we have to be tolerant, but you know, as long as it is my point of view. This is not how society is created. And then I thought about the road to intimacy, how I do it. And I can tell you I never had a course or a workshop in this. It's just since Monday until today I thought about what are the steps I do without knowing it, okay? So please don't post it to social media. This is the trick how to deal with people and stuff like this, okay? The first thing is you have to separate the behavior of a human being from the human being itself. Someone who is in prison on the day the person was born, there was not this dream, one day I want to be in prison for 10 years. Donald Trump, on the day he was born, he was not Donald Trump. And I sometimes think to myself, if I would be in their shoes, maybe I would be in prison. This is something you have to understand. Sometimes it is only by luck where we were born and who surrounded us. This is the first thing you have to understand. It's not that I say, if someone is doing crime, everything is good. No, if someone is doing crime, go to jail. Because you can judge the behavior, but never the human being. Never. This is something, for a lot of people, it's very hard. It's very hard. And when I was a kid, I was beaten up by Nazis. They put cigarettes into my skin. But I learned from my mother, talk about the behavior, but not the person. Because you have no idea what the person was going through. The second thing is, look at the potential and not the status quo. When I talk to people, I always see what they're capable of because I want to believe in them. When a kid is born, of course you can take a look at the status quo, but you know in 2 or 3 years the kid is walking around. You know this. You know that the kid is going to learn the language. It won't be a problem as long as you stay in touch with each other. And this is true for everything. When you believe that people have a future and the future is going to be better than maybe their past, you are talking to the person in a totally new point of view. And as I said before, it's only my way, okay? Maybe your way is different. The third thing is, you have to see the stories through their eyes. You have to ask. You have to understand why they are thinking that way. So when I'm in prison, when I talk to people from the far right, when I work with leaders who are judging the young ones in business, I try to understand how they see the world. And when you talk to them, when you ask, when you listen, and when I say listening, I don't mean listening because you want to answer. No, no, no. Because you want to understand. And then you understand, okay, he's 60 years old. He's an old white man. But when he grew up and he was 25 years old, everyone in business told him, you have to behave this way. Then you're successful. Then one day you have to, maybe you're the CEO. And he made it that way. And now he's CEO. He did everything in the right way. And now we're judging them, that they're wrong in business. But the last 35 years, the world told them, you're doing it in the right way. Therefore, we promote you being a leader. I don't say that this is good or bad, but it was Tolstoy who once said, he who understands is able to forgive. And we have a world where we have to understand to forgive each other. Also at home, when we have fights with our wife or man or whoever is around us. Number 4, you have to use an inclusive language. If you want people to be seen, you have to talk about their world, about their potential. And if you want to get in connection with them, you have to talk about the we. This is very important. When I go to schools in Berlin, there are schools in Berlin, no one wants to go there. There's crime and stuff like this. And when I go there, there are kids sitting in front of me at the age of 12 years old. I was there 2 months ago, and the first kid at the age of 12 said to me, hey, asshole, you're going to tell us something? Fuck off. Really? And I said to him, you know what? If I would be in your shoes, I would say the same. There is an old guy standing in front of you trying to tell you the world. What do I know about your life? I know that you're angry. I would be the same. And he was like, what? It's true. Don't fight against others. Try to understand them. The fifth thing is, you have to be true to yourself. Don't try to be strong. Try to be open. This is the truth. Being strong today means opening up to other people, telling your own story, telling how you feel. Because in that moment, people can also understand you. When you open up on an emotional level, they will understand your story, because everyone in this world once had a bad day. Everyone knows how it is having a broken heart, losing someone who's important for you, maybe losing a job. We know this feeling. But when you try to be always strong, there is no connection. But if you see someone through their eyes and you open up, no one can attack you in the world. And you have to own it. What I mean with this is, if you have experienced something bad, own it. Don't be someone who's like, yeah, it happened to me 10 years ago. I'm so sorry for my life. No, own it. Be proud of your experiences, because this made you to the person who you are today. And the sixth thing is, use the language of life. I was once, a few weeks ago, I was talking to a few leaders. There was something like a leadership day. And at the end of the day, I asked the leaders, what is the most important thing in life, becoming a better leader? And there was silence. And then the first person started and said, it's love. Do you love the people you're working with? It's not that if they're doing bullshit in job, of course you can fire them. But how do you see the world? Do you believe that we're all one or not? And there is a common language how you can deal in every situation, and it's the humor. And the humor is not telling jokes, it's how you see the interruptions of life, how you see the new stuff from outside. And I will tell you how the human beings in their original forms are dealing with something new from outside, which is maybe scary.
Yeah. Isaac? Boo! Boo! Boo!
do this on Monday with your boss. In the morning, so when he's sitting in front of his emails like this, okay, and a coffee and a bagel on the side, go there like, boo. He will slap you in your face. Why? Because everything which is happening in the world these days, oh, it's an attack. Everything is an attack. That one guy on Twitter said these words. Okay, why do you allow the person to be part of your life? Why do you do this? Laugh about it. Learn again being human. In 100 years, no one in this room is going to be alive. This is a good thing. Because you have to see the world as a playground. And when you're in Austria, you found the best playground in the world. You don't have to ask for clean water and stuff like this. Everything was there. It was created on the back of the old people who survived the World War more than 70 years ago. You have to understand that connection is much, much more important than sometimes thinking about the thoughts of other people. People always tell me, Ali, you know, we need more connection in the world. And I say, how's your family? And then they will tell me, yeah, the last time I saw my brother, and we were living in the same city, was 3 months ago. I was like, you want to save the world? Start at home. The good thing about humor is that it's not a gift of the mind, it's a gift of the heart. And we, as a society, we forgot that the heart is the master and the mind is the slave who is helping us. We totally changed this. We made the mind to the master, and therefore we're losing our mind every day into everyone who wants our attention. We are not able to control our minds because we were never taught this. No one ever taught us how to control our minds. But something which is always on our side is our heart. And when I also work with leaders, there's at first always a heart connection. Otherwise, we are not able to go very deep into the real problems. The last thing I want to tell you is, and this is the good thing about a community like this, we all want to change the world. We want to have a better future. No matter if it's climate or for our kids, no matter in which area. But the thing is about society, of course we can say, society needs to change, but maybe we can understand that we're always part of society. As a father, as a mother, as a colleague, as a boss, as a creator. And it's so important that you understand your own true power you have at the moment as a creative person. You guys are telling stories about the world to others. Of course, we all want to sell some stuff for a customer to someone else. I know this, I know that. But how people see the world is just what story they are telling themselves about the world. And who is creating the story? Sometimes it's media, sometimes it's press, sometimes it's advertising. Sometimes it's the storytellers who are sitting here in the room. And the thing I want to tell you is, if you want to have a world out there where people are intimate again with each other, where people are getting in touch with each other, maybe it's your job the next time to bring this into the game. We have no idea how the world is going to be in the next 10 years. We have no idea. But one thing is for sure. If you guys want to have a better future for yourself and for society and for the people out there, also for your families, you have to understand a simple thing. You guys are the enablers of the future, and no one else. Thank you very much. Thank you.